Alright, cool beans. Hope you guys did enjoy that small montage. I'm Hex. I'm going to be going over a StamSorc build this time. First Sorc build I've ever done on this channel. Not only does it come with the typical meta damage, meta tankiness, the thing that makes StamSorc really stand out is that it has one of the best sustain in the entire game for very little investment. You barely invest anything into sustain and you'll have the best sustain in the entire game compared to any other class. But the thing that makes StamSorc really stand out the most is the mobility. StamSorc, Sorcs in general, but StamSorc especially, has the best mobility in the entire game. Permanent minor expedition, but most important, streak. If they want to get away, they can get away. If a Sorc's like, you know what, I'm just going to dip, I don't want to fight you no more, they can go away, then they can never get caught if they really wanted to. But before we get started, if you guys can hit that subscribe and like button, it really does help out a lot. We're on the road to 1K. We're getting, every day we're getting closer and closer, and it can't be done without you guys, and I greatly do appreciate you. As always, I'll have timestamps on screen and down below if you're looking for anything specific. But without further ado, let's crystal weapons our way into the build. Alright, so for the first step we run is Rallying Cry. Rallying Cry is one of the best, if not the best, back barfs that you can run in this entire game, especially for solo or small scale. Why is that? 2 Ps adds crit, 3 Ps adds max mag, 4 Ps adds crit, 5 Ps while Battle Spirit is active. Basically, anytime you can kill a player, Battle Spirit is active. Critically healing yourself or an ally. Sends out a buff around you to you and up to 11 other group members, causing you and up to 11 group members to gain 300 weapon and spell damage and 1650 crit resist for 20 seconds. Each group member affected reduces this weapon and spell damage by 15 and crit resist by 83. This effect can occur once every 15 seconds. So the thing about this set, not only does it give you a lot of weapon and spell damage, that's a lot, and 1650 crit resist, which is equivalent to 25% crit damage mitigation. The thing about this set is even if you're in a 12-man and you practice by yourself, you actually get the full bonus as long as no one else gets affected by it. So if I'm in a 12-man and I'm by myself, like way off in the distance or even close to them and none of them are near me when this procs, I get the full 300 weapon and spell damage and 1650 crit resist. So this is really good even if you get caught out by yourself. And for my monster, I do run Engine Guardian. Engine Guardian is one of the best sustain sets in the entire game for monster sets. 1 piece adds health recovery. We need to change this. About time we get this to max health. And then obviously we all know what Engine Guardian is. To those that don't know or just want to flatter it, when using an ability that costs resources, you have a 25% chance to summon a dwemer that restores either stam, mag, or health every half second for 6 seconds with a 10-second cooldown. The thing about this, not only is this one of the best monster sets for sustain, it summons a dwemer that the enemy can actually attack. Now you might be saying, how is that useful? The thing is, if they're trying to hit you and this Engine Guardian either spawns or runs like in between you two, and they can target this and it will tank it for you. There's been so many times where people accidentally meteor my Engine Guardian. That's one of the most underrated things about the set, is that it can tank hits for you. Plus, I've seen it like when I was pushing Emperor and Azura Star in no CP, kids would focus this. I had like 4 kids actually focusing this thing, trying to kill it, thinking it was like a real thing that was going to kill them. And then obviously this is a front bar, back bar setup, so we obviously do run training. Why is that? Because training gives us the most max health for a 1 piece, 1454. And like I said earlier, this is a front bar, back bar setup with the mythic. And what mythic is that? Obviously, Markin Ring of Majesty. Now you might be getting tired of saying, why is Markin so good? Why is it so good? Why is it always used? Because of this. Current bonus with this setup, we have 200 weapon and spell damage and 2314 armor. Just here you go for free. Don't even have to think. And then for my last set that I do run is Way of the Fire. This set is just fun. It doesn't look like it. You might look at it like, really? That doesn't look that strong. Trust me, it really is. What exactly does it do? 2 Ps adds weapon and spell damage, 3 Ps adds max stam, 4 Ps adds crit, 5 Ps when you deal damage with a weapon, you deal an additional X amount of flame damage. This effect can occur once every 2 seconds and scales out the higher weapon and spell damage. So I mean, fully buff, we're getting about over 3k, right? Yeah, almost 3100 proc. The thing about this, it has a very short cooldown, 2-second cooldown. It might not do that much damage right away, but it'll do a lot of damage over time. The thing about this melts pugs. Like beginner players or not the most experienced players, this absolutely shreds them. If this crits, it's going to do crit flame damage, it's going to multiply, it's just going to amplify, and it's just going to hurt. But the thing about I love it is that it has such a short cooldown, it's so much fun. So the way we run it is we do run a Maul of the Fire, because 2H passive, heavy weapons, Mauls increase your physical and spell penetration by 3300. We do run an Absorb Stamina enchant. Not only does it do a small amount of burst damage and also restore stamina, which is really good. The main reason is because anytime you do physical damage, you have a chance to proc the Sundered status effect, which applies minor breach to the target for 4 seconds, reducing their physical and spell penetration by 2974. Add that on top with our trait Sharpen, we just have a lot of shred to the resistances. So for the back bar, we do run a Rallying Cry Ice Staff. Please run the Ice Staff. Yes, it will make a huge difference. Don't run the Flame, don't run a Lightning. It has to be an Ice Staff with this build to work. And I will get more into that when I get to the skills. So we do run an Absorb Magic enchant. Really good for when I try to go for heavies to get that magic. But mostly just there because it just came with the weapon and I've been too lazy to change it. So we do run Defending. I prefer Defending. I tried Powered. I didn't really like it. Because like a wise man once said, it is better to mitigate damage than to heal the damage. You can have all the heals in the world, but if you get bursted, well guess what? You died. Your heals can't go off. But if you survive with 1 HP, you still have a chance to heal, dodge roll, do whatever. So that's the reason. So for the body, we do run the standard 3 heavy, 3 medium, 1 light. So for my medium, I do run a medium head and shoulders Avenger Guardian, and my last piece of medium is the hands of Trainee. For my heavy, I do run a heavy chest, legs, and feet of the fire, because Way of the Fire only drops in heavy. And for my 1 light piece, I do run a Rallying Cry Sash. For my enchants, if you can, please try stat all the pieces. If you can't do that, try stat the big pieces. What I mean by that is head, chest, and legs. And if you can't do that full max damage perfectly just fine, just adjust your health attributes at the end. For my traits, I do run 6 M-Pen, 1 Reinforce. Yes, 6 M-Pen, 1 Reinforce. My 1 Reinforced is a heavy reinforced chest of the fire. Please, a heavy chest reinforced. It does make a difference. And then the rest, obviously, M-Pen. Now you might be saying, why are you running M-Pen if you have Rallying Cry? Doesn't that push you over cap? In PvP, there is no such thing as crit cap. There is no crit cap. There is no crit resist cap either. Like, you might think, oh, 50% is the crit cap. No, Nightblades have a little passive called Hemorrhage, which increases their critical damage done by 10%. Templars also have a 10% critical damage modifier. The Blue CP, Finding Finesse, increases critical damage by 8%. And most importantly, the Shadow. So you can see that. So some people are doing like 60% critical damage. With this build, we're about 58% critical damage mitigation. So when they do crit us, we're taking like very little, if any, critical damage. Alright, so for my jewelry, I do run a Rallying Cry neck and a Rallying Cry ring. And for my last piece, I do run a Marking ring, because obviously Marking only comes in a ring. Duh. So the way we run it is we do run all infused, all spell damage. So for this build, it doesn't really matter. You can go all spell damage or you can go all weapon damage. It's perfectly fine. It perfectly works with this build. Alright, so for the food we do run is Orzakas. This food is the best food in the entire game for PvP right now. And has been for like the past, since the whole hybridization. Why is that? Increases max health by 4300. Gives you, if you want to hear a joke, also grants some health recovery. But most importantly, increases your stam and mag reca by 369. Obviously, if you can't afford it, because this food is pretty pricey. The purple version Jewels of Minstrel is perfectly just fine. It just gives you about 400 less health. That's the only noticeable thing. Other than that, you wouldn't notice anything else. Now for the pots, there are a few pots. The main thing we want for pots is Major Prophecy, which increases our spell crit by 12%. So we get 6% more spell crit on a Sorc. The only way to fit crit on this build is through our pots. And the only other thing you can really get with spell crit is mag. Now the third bonus is what you want. There are 3 options. You could just go spell pots. That also give you Major Sorcery, which you pretty much get from a skill we run already. The thing about these pots is they're very cheap and very easy to get. The second best pots would be the ones with health. But the strongest and probably most expensive one, depending on what server you're playing, are the immovabilities. And move with Major Prophecy and max and mag. These are probably the best. Trust me, it works, and it only works because of sorcerers and one skill, which is, spoiler alert, Dark Deal. Alright, but enough of that. Let's go over the skills now. Alright, so for the first skill we run is Rally. Obviously, not only does it give our majors, Major Brutality, Sorcery, also gives you Minor Endurance, increasing your stamina recut by 15%. The main reason is because of that simple heal we get. You heal for 4,500 when the rally ends, which is increased by 15% every 1 second, up to a maximum of 300. And obviously we do run streak, because why else would you be playing a Sorc if you weren't going to run streak? Flash forward, dealing, shock damage and stunning enemies in your way for 3 seconds. And this thing, I don't know why this exists. This effect cannot be blocked. This is an unblockable stun that stuns for 3 seconds. Either two things: either make it blockable and last for 3 seconds, or make it unblockable but stun you for 1 second. But hey, if it's broken, we're gonna abuse it. And also really good for pulling those pesky Nightblades out of stealth. Next we do run Executioner. Obviously this is our execute. The lower health they are, the harder we hit, and when they're really low and we hit this, bye-bye. Next skill we do run is Crystal Weapons. This is what makes a StamSorc right now. Basically, you encase your weapon for 6 seconds, causing your next 2 light or heavy attacks to do bonus damage. Also, it also reduces the enemy's resistances by 1k. Really good for setting up combos with. You set this up with the next skill we run, Dizzy and Swing. Basically, where you charge an uppercut, hitting really hard, setting them off balance. Hitting an enemy that's off balance will stun them, and if the target is immune to off balance, you snare them by 40%. Really good, could be really wonky, and very terrible when using in lag, especially for us non-PC peasants. Next we do run Dawnbreaker. Obviously Dawnbreaker is the best ultimate for most classes. Arm yourself with Murder's Sacred Sword, dispensing your retribution. Basically you drop an ultimate in front of you in a cone, doing a lot of physical damage, putting a nasty down on them, but most importantly, stunning them for 2 seconds. Ultimate that hits really hard, stuns them, and puts a nasty dot. This thing will be really good for finishing targets off. For the back bar, we do run Race Against Time. It's a skill that grants you root and snare immunity for 4 seconds, while also giving you major expedition for 4 seconds and minor force for 20 seconds. Yeah, that's kind of dumb if you ask me, but hey, we're going to abuse whatever is broken right now. Next we do run Hurricane. This is obviously just our armor buff that does damage around us. Gives us major resolve, increasing our physical and spell resist by 5948. And minor expedition, increases movement speed by 15%. So this is what makes this Sorc really speedy, because minor expedition. Next we do run Resolve and Vigor. This is obviously our burst hot, heal a lot of health over 5 seconds, and as the Law of Staff, grants you minor resolve, increasing your physical and spell resist by 2974 for 20 seconds. Next we do run Dark Deal. This is what makes a Sorc with no sustain have godly sustain. 1 second cast time, healing yourself for a lot of health, getting a bunch of the opposite resource, while on top of that also getting more resources over a period of time. So the thing about this is you actually net resources every time you use this. This is almost 2600 cost, but you restore 3600 stamina instantly and 2400 stam over 10 seconds. Following the trend of adding something broken in every patch. Last patch it was Race Against Time and Resolve and Vigor. This patch it is Elemental Susceptibility, or LSUS for short. This thing is just crazy. Why is that? Not only does it give major breach, reducing their physical and spell resist by 5948, but most importantly, every 6 seconds while this ability persists, the enemy is afflicted with burning, chilled, and concussed status effect. But most importantly, chilled. If you put this while you have an Ice Staff equipped, which we do have the Rallying Cry Ice Staff, enemies afflicted with chilled while you have an Ice Staff makes them get minor brittle for 4 seconds, increasing their critical damage taken by 10%. Enemies with minor brittle take 10% more damage from crits. So minor vuln 5% more damage at all times, and minor brittle 10% more damage from all crits. You will be bursting, kids. On top of that, on top of putting major breach on them. Yeah, this is kind of crazy. And then for our ultimate, it's Temporal Guard. Basically just for the passive. While slotted, you gain minor protection, reducing your damage taken by 5%. Alright, but enough of that. Let's go over the stat sheets now. Alright, so our stat sheets with a simple spell pot. Max mag is at 16.5k. Max health is just shy of 33k. Max damage is at 23.3k. Fully buffed, our mag recover is at 1272. Health recovery is always a joke to read. And our stam recover is at 1515. So fully procced in PvP, our spell damage is at 5365. Should be about the same if you go to weapon damage, should be about the same. Our spell crit fully buffed is at 36.4%. Very nice. Physical and spell pain is at 8215. And fully procced on our resistances on our back bar. Spell resist is at 29.5k. Physical resist at 28.8k. And our crit resist in PvP is 3732 fully procced. That is about 58% crit damage mitigation. So for the attributes, we do go 24 points in the health and 40 points in the stam. And then obviously the reason why I want max health, because obviously we want to push past the 30k threshold. so we look more intimidating, and obviously so we don't get bursted into oblivion. And then the rest always in the max stam because we are a stam spec. The Mundus we do run is the Serpent, increase the stam recover by 310. This Mundus is the best for this build because unfortunately we don't have the sustain from pots, like the burst of stam and also the 30% major endurance recover buff. But trust me, it works. I know we run mag pots, but trust me, it sounds weird, but it just works. Trust me, it just works. And obviously we are a stage 3 vampire because any build these days should always be a stage 3 vampire. Why is that? Because of one simple passive. Undeath. While you are vampire stage 3 or higher, reduces your damage taken by up to 30% based on your missing health. The more missing health you have, the tankier you get. So like, for example, if you're at 50% health, you're taking 15% less damage from everything that isn't oblivion damage. And for my race, I am an Imperial. Imperial is the best open world stam race in this entire game right now, in my opinion. Why is that? Tough increases your max health by 2k, the most max health you can get from a race. Imperial Metal increases your max stam by 2k, but most importantly, Red Diamond reduces the cost of all your abilities by 6%. That includes mag, stam, health, also ultimate. And don't quote me on this, put a big asterisk to this, as I'm told it also does reduce the cost of like roll, dodge, CC, break, and block. Put a big asterisk to that, don't hold me to that. That's what I've been told. So some good races that could be is Wood Elf. Wood Elf is really good, gives you a bunch of max stam, stam recover, penetration, and movement speed. Nord is also really good, gives you tankiness, health, stam, and also some ult gen. Khajiit could be really good too. If all else fails, Jack of all trades, Dark Elf is always good. Alright, but enough of that, let's go over the CP now. Alright, so for the blue CP, we do run Fighting Finesse. Increases your critical damage, critical healing by 8%. Focus Many increases your healing done with single target heals by up to 10%. Master at Arms increases your damage done with direct damage attacks by up to 6%. And Ironclad reduces your damage taken by direct damage attacks by up to 6%. Alright, so for the red CP, we do run Celerity, increases your movement speed by up to 10%. In my opinion, the best CP in the entire game. Survival Instincts, while afflicted with a status effect, your core combat skills cost up to 25% less. Relentlessness, being stunned or feared causes you to gain major protection for 3 seconds, reducing your damage taken by 10%. And Pain's Refuge reduces your damage taken by 2% for every 2 negative effects active on you, up to a maximum of 20%. And for the green CP, doesn't really matter. Rationer, Liquid Efficiency, Gifted Rider, and Sea's Blessing. Alright, but enough of that, let's go over the combo rotation. Alright, so for the combo rotation, it's pretty simple. Like any other build, always buff up. So the combo is basically, after you're done buffing up, the combo is you're going to Elisus, Elemental Susceptibility them, or Elisus for short. You're going to Elisus into a bar swap, Crystal Weapons, Dizzying Swing, Donnie, execute spam. So let's see it in action. Obviously, always buff up. So Elisus, bar swap, Crystal Weapons, Dizzying Swing, Dawnbreaker, execute. And that for the most part will melt a lot of kids. And the thing about this build is you really don't need a Dawnbreaker if you didn't want to. What you could do is just Elisus, Crystal Weapons, double D-Swing. Thank you for the double cast so much. Elisus, bar swap, Crystal Weapons, D-Swing into a D-Swing, execute spam. Or if you want to, you can even D-Swing, set them off balance, medium weave into executes, and that will stun them. So the thing about this build is you want to hit them as soon as you put your elemental susceptibility on them. It puts all the status effects, including Minor Brittle, which increases their damage taken from crits by 10%. So if we set this up right, our combo will go off just right before our debuffs go off. So Elisus, bar swap, Crystal Weapons, D-Swing, Donnie. See, that barely went off just in time. But enough of that, let's go over the alternatives now. So for the alternatives, there really isn't an alternative for Way of the Fire. The only one that kinda comes to mind would be from the Fanglair dungeon, Calirions. Not as strong as they used to be. Does half the damage but with half the cooldown, so pretty cool, really fun for, you know, consistent pressure. For Rallying Cry, I really don't know why you wouldn't run Rallying Cry. It's pretty easy to get. It's not as expensive as it used to be. For whatever reason you can't get your hands on it, Stage of Trickery will do perfectly just fine, which is really good. And for the monster set, there are a few alternatives. Honestly, you do need to sustain. You really do need to sustain, but if somehow you just have beautiful sustain without it, you could always just go Bloodspawn, ulti gen with tankiness, Never say no to that with a nice juicy line of stamina recoup. Or you can always just go tried and true Battle Orcs. Battle Orcs is always good on almost any open world build. So yeah, StamSorc was fun. I can't believe I finally have a StamSorc build. It's the same story with a lot of these classes. It's like, I want to play these classes. It's just like, I need to find the build. And some builds, for the most part, it might seem like, oh, all these builds work. They actually don't work. There's so many builds. Like, I did like 5 Stamblade builds, and none of them worked until I tried the 6th one, and that one was the best build I had. But yeah, StamSorc was fun. Not only does it come with standard, you know, high damage, high tankiness, but the thing that makes StamSorc stand out from the rest is that it gives you the best sustain for having almost no sustain, if that makes any sense. Like, StamSorc invests very little into sustain to have nearly indefinite sustain, just because of one skill, Dark Deal. This thing is just crazy. Not only that, and also what makes StamSorc the most noticeable is the mobility. StamSorc has the best mobility in the entire game. Well, Sorcs in general, but especially StamSorcs. The thing about a StamSorc is if they want to get away, they're getting away. Unless you got a gap closer, you're going to get away. Alright, but cool beans. Hope you guys did enjoy the build video. It was really fun to finally bring out the StamSorc, because the last time I played StamSorc was like maybe like 4 years ago. Like, really played the class. Very great sustain for having very little sustain investments. The damage was there, but the most important thing is it's really good for 1vxing / small scaling because of the mobility. This class is unmatched with mobility. But as always, like the video if you liked it, comment your thoughts or experiences with the build video. Also, anything I might have missed out, what video I should do next. Subscribe for more. But most importantly, stay zerging.